We are going deep, my friend. This is your Sidereal Astrology Forecast. So we've got Libra season coming to an end, Scorpio season beginning. So that means we've got a full moon in Aries, a new moon in Scorpio. We've got Mars that has just entered Scorpio. So this was the time of year where everything just got deep and dark and intense. This is the month, my friend. This is your Sidereal Astrology Forecast here for the overview of what we have going on in November 2025. Welcome back, my friend. Hey, Danie C, Muniz, Inner Work Alchemist, and the creator of this channel and the podcast. So if you did not know, there is a YouTube channel and a podcast, and both of them have different things on there, but this forecast is always on both. So this month, we are changing things up a bit. You're going to see some changes happening as I'm testing and trying new things as we enter the end of 2025 into 2026. These monthly forecasts, I love doing them. So we're going to continue on doing them. Our weekly forecasts, though, if you haven't already noticed, those are going to shift. They have already started to shift where we've really just kind of stopped doing them, if I'm completely honest. But we do have new videos that will be coming out around the new moon and the full moon, and a podcast episode dedicated to whatever zodiac season we're in. So in this month, we'll have our Scorpio season episode that will talk all about Scorpio season, the shadow work of Scorpio season, and how to just in general work with this energy. So if you are new here, welcome. Be sure you are subscribed so you know when we drop the latest video and or podcast here on the channel. If you have not met me, welcome. I am the creator and founder of the Inner Work Alchemy method, and that is where I help high achieving spiritual women who are navigating life. And what I've really come to understand is these are my fellow Gen X women. So yes, if you are a Gen Xer, you probably will resonate with this channel. If you are somewhere in the early millennial, you'll probably also really resonate with this. And even some of my later friends in the Gen Y, Gen Z, you probably also resonate with this. But because I'm a Gen X, it's just what it is. You might see a little bit of a shift towards that in the coming months as I've really looked at my clientele, and most of the ladies that I get to work with, the privilege I have is in the Gen X realm. So my friend, welcome. Pull up a seat. Let's get started. Grab your notebook because we've got lots to talk about. Now, you know my favorite thing to do as we start off these videos is to talk about the state of the planet, as I like to call it. And that is, where is everybody as we kick off this month? Let's go back here. I was doing some research. The 1st of November, and this is in from the lens of Austin, Texas, because that is where your girl is from. So we are looking at 15 degrees in Libra. So we're about halfway through Libra season with our sun. We've got Venus right here at the very edge of Virgo. She's about to move over to Libra. We've got our South Node in Leo. We've got Jupiter, who has just entered Cancer during October. We've got Uranus down here in Taurus, still retrograde. Chiron in Pisces, still retrograde. Neptune in Pisces retrograde. Saturn in Pisces retrograde. Saturn will be moving out of retrograde later this month. And then we've also got our North Node in Aquarius. Our moon is conjunct there, also in Aquarius as we start this month. We've got Pluto over here in Capricorn. Mercury and Mars conjunct over here in Scorpio. As I said, Mars did just go, not retrograde, moved into Scorpio at the end of October 27th to be exact. And so we've got Mars there. So that is where everybody is starting this month. Now let's look a little bit into what is going on this month. So we really don't have anything that the sun is kind of connecting with for these first 2 weeks of the month. And that is really beautiful because the sun is in its most potent energy. It is not being influenced by anything. It is in its most real, open, connected energy to Libra. So we're going to see a lot of that, those themes that we see in Libra around relationships. I also did a whole podcast episode about Libra that you can catch on the podcast. I'll be sure to link it down below. But that will tell you all about Libra season, and that's just that pure potent energy for these first about 11 days. So on the 11th here, on the 11/11 portal, we're going to see these guys pop in. So everything before that has been pure, open energy. But then once we kick off here on the 11th, we will see these guys come into play. Now, Jupiter and Saturn, are going to play a significant role this month in the way, not only in their own retrogrades, but also in how they are connected to the sun, to Mercury, to Mars, and to Venus. So let's dive in first off with this trine over here to Saturn. So the sun trine Saturn, which will be here from the 11th through the 22nd. And this is bringing in some responsibility, that patience, that persistence and determination that Saturn is known for, right? This is where we get into that very like concrete, practical energy, things that are achievable, really looking to achieve goals, set goals, really working towards that energy. So there's this midpoint here in the month that we're going to see that shift in from more of, how can I wrap up this year? What can I do to finish strong? You might feel a little bit more responsibility. You might even feel that you're having to take on more responsibility, or you feel more responsible during this time as well. Relationships with superiors or those who are elder in some way, shape, or form is also really beneficial in this time. And they're very open to supporting and guiding and helping you. Now we look at this trine over here on the flip side with Jupiter. Jupiter is that optimistic energy. And so it is about growth and good fortune, prosperity, opportunities. So we see this energy opening up here, which now, again, these energies tend to be a little bit more internal. There's still really good energy here. And then Jupiter, you can see, is already in its retrograde position here already. So already we're all kind of moving this into the internal, where Saturn will be preparing to make this external. So just want to give you that little tidbit there. But this is very optimistic, very happy, very generous, very confident. So it's like, yes, I can take on the world here. Jupiter with Sun in this connection, this aspect, definitely is like, I can do anything. Like, I'm ready to go for it all. So this is really, use this to, hit the ground running for achieving those final things that you might want to hit for, the end of the year, getting those things ready, maybe for like a Black Friday event, or, connecting maybe with family. Maybe you had some goals around how you wanted to show up with your family this year, or what you wanted to create for yourself this year. This is like, okay, I got this. I can do this. Now let's see here on the 15th, we have our sun transitioning out of Libra, and it will move into Scorpio around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'll bump this ahead and you'll see it move into Scorpio. Now, as I say that, we also have a couple of things that you'll notice popped on here to our chart. We've got Uranus in opposition, and then we've got Neptune now making that trine. Because we have had these two, Saturn and Neptune, kind of moving along together, you're usually going to find the aspects correlating with those as well. So let's talk about this Neptune one, and then we'll talk about this Uranus one, because that one is going to throw us a little fun, let's just say. So Sun trine Neptune. Neptune is the more spiritual planet, right? So it is connected more to that intuitive, imaginative, spiritual, compassion energy. And so we're going to see more of that come into play, like, oh, okay, I can create this. I can imagine this. deeper connection with spirit or your spiritual path or even your connection, right? That intuitive connection, really coming more into consciousness here, really sensitive to vibrations and people and energy. There's more of a connectedness in our feelings to people, which is really interesting at this time of year, right? This is here in the US, this is our, Thanksgiving season, preparing in for the holidays that we celebrate all through December, right? During this time, there's a lot that we celebrate as a whole, and there's just this really connected energy, and we see that heightened here with this Neptune transit. So psychic abilities, creative abilities, artistic expression really wants to come out during this time as well. Now, the other one that we see here is that opposition over to Uranus. So let's talk about that. And then we'll talk about how this sun moving into Scorpio is going to flip things for us just a bit. So, sun in opposition to Uranus, there's a feeling that something is going to happen. There's an unexpected change. Things are changing. Circumstances are changing. There's freedom, right? That could definitely be challenged here because Uranus is the rebellion. It loves to beat to its own drum. It has its own rhythm. It does its own thing. And so freedom, a sense of freedom, could be challenged here. And this is from the 15th through the 27th, where things are just so unstable. It might, stability might feel a little bit hard to maintain. So there could be tension that has been building up from other things that might be happening in the collective that are just kind of coming to a close here or coming to a peak of some point. So, the really beautiful thing is Uranus can detach its viewpoint so it doesn't get into the emotional place of it. It is very much detached and is taking a more higher type awareness of something where it's that detached viewpoint, which is great. Sometimes we need to have that detached viewpoint and not be in the thing, right? But being able to take a broader outlook. Now, one of the things I would also be wary of is ego conflicts can definitely come into play here. I'm right. Those ideas of who's right. So there could be the ego conflict thinking, no, my way is the right way. And so just look for that potential here of people wanting to have their path or their way be the one that gets selected, right? Or the one that gets the highlight, so to speak. So something to kind of look at, but there is some unsettling, not quite knowing what is going to happen right here during this time. So just something to keep in the back of your mind as we move into Scorpio season. Now let's talk a little bit about Scorpio energy as we dive into Scorpio season. So Scorpio season begins in Sidereal Astrology on November 15th, as I said, somewhere around 5 p.m., and it will be in Scorpio through the 15th of December. Now, Scorpio is a water sign, so we're talking emotional energy is heightened here. And with our Jupiter being retrograde in Cancer, we're amplifying that energy, as we'll see when we talk later about Jupiter in retrograde in Cancer. But with Scorpio, we're talking about Pluto. Pluto is the overarching ruler of Scorpio zodiac. So we're talking depth here. We're not talking surface level, just talk about the weather. That's not what Scorpio likes. Scorpio wants to go deep down. It wants to do research. It wants to unearth things so that it can be transformed. This is often associated with the archetype of the Phoenix rising, right? Of that idea of death to rebirth. Things have to die or die off so that new things can be risen. So I love to look at Scorpio season. Once I started getting into astrology and following the seasons, it was like, oh, here we go. And everybody was always like, oh, Scorpio season, right? It's thick, it's heavy, it's intense. And yes, it is all those things. And it's a beautiful opportunity for us to shed, to let go, to release things that are no longer in alignment. It's like that final little piece before we move into our calendar year, our new year, right? In this case, 2026. that opportunity to kind of to shed. Now, the card that is associated in tarot is the death card. Now, this can also look like, oh my goodness, right? Like it's death. Like nobody wants to die, right? But this is not literal death here. I want you to take this into the concept of what needs to die. What do you need to let go of? What needs to be transformed? And so there's a reframe for you. What needs to be transformed? Scorpio rules over those addictions, those habits that may not be for the best, right? They may not be our most healthy addictions, right? Is addiction healthy? I don't know. But there are, I might say, transitions, right? From unhealthy addictions to healthier addictions. And so if we look at it from that standpoint, what are some of the addictions, the things that you are addicted to? And when I see this, remember, we're not just talking about your common drug and alcohol addictions. We're talking about the habits, the things that you are addicted to. Are you addicted to your phone? Are you addicted to scrolling on social media? Are you addicted to watching TV? Are you addicted to unhealthy foods? Are you addicted to procrastination? What are you addicted to? And this is your opportunity to let go of those addictions. This is the time when shadow work really comes into play. This is the universe saying, hey, like shaking you. What have you been avoiding, my friend? Business, money, relationships, your own authority, power. Pluto is that power energy, and Scorpio is that power energy. We look at the solar plexus for that power energy here. So, what have you been avoiding? What have you been putting on the shelf? I'm going to tell you this, it's either going to come right into your face and make you deal with it, or it's going to come out in a way that you might not want, my friend. And this is why we do this work, right? This is why I love somatic breath work to release a lot of the energy. This is why I love to get together and do ceremonies like circles where we get to dive into things, uncover things that are within us and move through them. This is why I have Rise and Align the Experience, so we can move through those things together in community where you don't have to do it alone, as well as Sacred CEO. That's one of the reasons why we have our calls with Sacred CEO to come together and to work on these things. This is right. That's the container for it. So are you building your business, building your life from a place that is authentic, or are there old ideas, right? Have you been doing the healing work, or are you being, right? How are you showing up in that healing work? Are you half-assing it? Excuse my language, but are you doing that? Are you kind of in and not fully in? Like you're kind of doing it, but not really. You're not allowing yourself to go deeper, right? That's one of the reasons why connecting with your body and creating this relationship with yourself and connecting with yourself on a daily basis, even if it's just for a few moments, by doing that journaling, by doing that inner work, creating that relationship with self so that you can dive into these things where it doesn't have to be so traumatic. We're not here to relive the experience. We're here to understand what decisions we made from those experiences so that we can make new ones, right? So we can shift the energy around it. Okay, so that is Scorpio season, and we're going to be in this through December. This happens every single year, and this time can get a little heavy. So I do want to give that to you now as a forefront of things are about to get a little heavy, my friend. All right, let's keep trucking on with our sun. And as I do that, we're also going to bring in this next one, and I want to talk about some of the things that this one is also connected to, because we are going to see Mercury here, as you see, pop in. Now, Mercury is going retrograde, and we will talk a little bit about what that retrograde is all about. So let's talk really quick here. So the sun does conjunct Mercury in Scorpio here. We've seen this, we're seeing this happen, on the 17th. So it's later in the day here on the 17th through the 22nd, it's going to be conjunct. Now, they're kind of going to be connecting because we've got Mercury going retrograde, and we've also got it once it comes back out of retrograde, it's going to come back. So they're kind of going to be hanging out, even though they're only conjunct for this period of time here. They are still going to be very connected to each other over the next month or so, maybe a little bit longer, maybe about 2 months. So let's look at this Sun conjunct Mercury. What does that mean? So Mercury and the Sun together, there's lots of thinking and being able to just focus in. There's a lot of communication happening, conversations happening. We're wanting to conversate. Short travel is often what we see here as well, especially as we are in this holiday season or preparing. I actually will be traveling during this time as well. But this energy of adaptability, of curiosity, of wanting to learn, wanting to know things, it's a little bit more of a busier time. Meetings, you want social connection, meeting other people, making plans, negotiating, conversating. There's just a lot of that energy here when the Sun and Mercury are conjunct. So pay attention to your energy during this time because you'll probably want to make plans for things and do things. But then maybe 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So just be mindful that you might be in that place, but also use this for research, for brainstorming, especially since we'll be in Scorpio season. Scorpio loves to do research. It loves to dive deep into things. So use this energy, this time, especially those few days there to brainstorm, to research, to just allow those thoughts to come out. Don't try to stop them. A lot of the times we think we have to stop our thoughts, but a lot of the times there's really good things in there. So just take some time, take out your pen, or if you use a digital something, right? Where you could just drop the notes into. They might not be good notes. They might not be something that you want to use, but there might be some gold in there. So I always recommend, especially during this little period with Mercury and the Sun, whenever they're conjunct, make sure you're paying attention to those thoughts. And with Scorpio, they can also take a little bit of a darker side. So that's also something to be aware of what is driving, right? What's the stories that are behind? That's why I love the daily somatic awareness practice. If you haven't downloaded that recording, we did it on one of our episodes on the podcast, but I also cut it out and just have a standalone recording of it, walking you through that daily somatic awareness practice. It's about 6 to 7 minutes, and it really helps you see what are the stories and how are they connected to the feelings that I'm having in my body, the emotions that I'm having, and what is it that I desire? Like, what is behind that? It is such a beautiful practice. It's easy. It's simple. I do it every single day. And it just gives me insight into what is going on in my mind. So pay attention, my friend. Pay attention to what is going on in the mind, because that is what you're going to see in your outer world. All right, let's keep on moving on. I want to talk about some of these other things now that we've brought Mercury into the conversation, is that we do have some aspects with Mercury that you probably already see that we had with the Sun. First off, we did have Pluto come in here with the Sun, but then you'll also notice that now we have Mercury connecting to all the planets that we just talked about with the Sun. So how does this differ with the Mercury and now being connected to these planets? So first off, we see a Mercury with Neptune really amplifying that energy with that imagination and that creativity and that connection. So dreaming up ideas and fantasies and different theories is really great with Mercury and Neptune. So how do you use this, right? Let's think about you trying to come up with another way of doing something. This is a good time to do that. Having a creative spin on something. How can I do this differently? This is a great time to do that. If you're working on psychic abilities or enhancing your intuition, this is another really good opportunity to work on your intuition. And this one helps you see bigger picture. So if you're need a bigger picture on something, if you're too much in the weeds, this is a great transit. Now let's look at that opposition with Uranus, because Uranus, again, that's that change. There's this scatteredness and this unexpected, it's unstable energy. So not ideal for making plans, not the best time to negotiate certain like business deals or bigger things. There's a lot of self-discipline that needs to happen here. because Uranus it's like it doesn't want to, it wants to, it's scattered, it's all over the place. There's some nervous energy around here. It's easily distracted. And again, this is coming in here at the beginning of a month, and then it's going to come in here again it'll be mostly through the month, but there is going to be a little bit of a gap, probably about 5 days or so, where we won't be in this energy. But we're going to see this all the way through the 24th of November. So you might feel a little like, I can't think straight, or I feel all over the place. That's what this can tend to feel like. So this is a good time to do some grounding for sure, making sure that you are allowing yourself to come into the present moment. So mindfulness activities are really beautiful during this time. Also, that idea of what are the 5 things I see, what are the 4 things that I hear, that type of practice where you're really bringing yourself to the present is super important. Taking just 3 deep grounding breaths is something that you can do to just bring yourself into the present, because it can feel like a Scorpio wants to go doomsday, right? So it can feel like, it's like it's all over the place and nothing feels good. It doesn't feel positive. Even though we have that Jupiter energy, it is retrograde, but still we might grasp onto some of those negative emotions with it being in Cancer. So I just want to caution you here. This is why I highly recommend that daily somatic awareness practice and just tune in. One of the things that we do inside Rise and Align on our daily alignment calls is 7 minutes. It's just 7 minutes of journaling. And my friend, the awareness that you have in just 7 minutes of writing makes all the difference. So if you only had 7 minutes plus another 6 minutes, what is that? 13 minutes to just take for yourself every single day. I can tell you that it will significantly help you as you move through this week. Now, if you have this time period, this month, if you have more time, do one of the daily somatic breath works. They're on the channel here on YouTube. There are some on the podcast. And there also is a whole podcast dedicated to breath work. It's called Breathe with Danie. If you did not know, there is a whole podcast dedicated to that. There are 22 individual 20-minute thematic breathwork sessions on there that you can do anytime if you're wanting to spill into a particular emotion, or you're wanting to release anything that is the opposite of that emotion. So if you're in fear or hate, then there's one on love that you can do, right? So those are available for you. There'll be a link down in the description box so you can access that. It's a private podcast. You can only get it through that link, and that is it. It's not out there anywhere else for you to get. So it is private. So you'll get an email every day of a new one. So if you want to go through the 22-day challenge of one every single day, you can go through that, or you can just pick one and do it for that day. All right, let's keep trucking on here. So we talked about this Neptune and this Uranus. Let's talk about Saturn and Jupiter with Mercury here. So again, we have the same thing with Saturn and Jupiter as we talked about with the Sun. They're pretty much going to be here most of the month. We're going to see them at the beginning of the month and then later on in the later half of the month. But most of them are going to stay until about the end of the month, about the 23rd, 27th, in that area. But this one right here with Jupiter is going to be all the way through December 10th. So let's talk about that one. This is that trine, and keep in mind that Jupiter will be moving into Gemini during this time. And so it will switch the energy just a little bit and get a little bit more antsy, but for the most part, we'll keep the same energy. So again, Jupiter is really great for optimism, for positivity. It wants to expand things. So there's like good luck and happiness that tend to come in here. But there's a really big social activity, social connection, researching, learning. Mercury loves to learn. So Jupiter's just amplifying that energy. Traveling or setting off on some type of journey, like looking for an adventure, because Jupiter loves to travel. It loves to see new things, experience new things, whether you are physically going to a new place or just even your own neighborhood, coming from that approach of just like curiosity and how can this be an adventure, right? Even if it's just an hour out of town. There's also cleaning up and organizing that we can see with this energy as well. All right, let's talk really quick about this Saturn energy over here that we see with Mercury. because Saturn always brings that frame of mind of seriousness, of responsibility, of let's get things done. And so there's more practical energy here, more permanent energy here. Like our thoughts are thinking about what's practical, what's permanent, what's going to help us get things done and move us one step closer to our goal. So we'll see this energy all the way through the 15th of December. Now, the beautiful energy here is that you might feel more of an authority here. You might start to feel like more confident in the things that you do know. Now, on the flip side of that, with the Scorpio energy, it can also, because these planets are going to expand whatever is already there. So Saturn, if you're already feeling like, I don't have any confidence, I don't think I can do this, I'm not worthy, Saturn is going to amplify that for you. So I want to tell you that now is that is also a good time to say, okay, it's time to work on my worthiness, right? It's time to work on some confidence, maybe some leadership, right? How can I work on these things? Like, where am I getting stuck? So that when this transit comes into play here, which is going to be almost about a month, you'll have that opportunity to step into that and explore that so you can come out of it much more confident, much more grounded and ready to take on, the end of the year into the new year. All right, let's go and talk about one more thing before we go and talk about our full moon and new moon. And then we have a couple other things to talk about as well. I want to talk about this right here with Mercury. I mentioned earlier that we had Venus right by here. So Venus is connecting right here with the Mercury beginning here on the 22nd and will be just about a 5-day period here. Now, I want to tell you about this because Venus is, that energy of relationships and beauty and money and, it's very harmonious, right? And so this 5-day window here, which happens to be right around Thanksgiving here in the US, is promoting love and affection and just connecting and being with people. And so, telling people that you love them, showing appreciation. And I just love this. Like, we don't always have this connection here. And this is so beautiful because Venus is in Libra, which is that very fair and equal energy. And Mercury being retrograde in Scorpio, it is more emotional. It is more a little bit of depth. So there's two things here that I see with this particular transit for the kind of the holidays as we move through this Thanksgiving here in the US. And that is number one, great for connecting and bonding and that togetherness that you might feel with your loved ones, right? Whether that's your intimate family, your close friendships, or people you deem as family, right? Have that close connection. And it's just like so beautiful. I love it. The flip side of this, though, is that those relationships that aren't in that harmonious, loving energy, this could create some turmoil. So with the Libra energy, there might be some people pleasing, wanting to, just let things be and just let things happen as they always have. And then allowing that frustration and, anger and hurt to kind of just build up or push it even further down. And so there could be some of that coming. And I want to prepare you, my friend, for whatever you might be entering yourself. So I am going to do like a healing during this week of Thanksgiving so that we can, release some of the things that might come up as we prepare for, meeting with family members who maybe we don't interact with on a regular basis, or we have had challenges with this season. So this can also come into play. Now, the Scorpio side is that dark, manipulative, controlling power energy too. So we could, or others, right, could be coming into this energy as well. And so again, I say that to just prepare you that you might be stepping into like a lion's den idea, right, where people are hostile and they're frustrated and they're angry and they're not doing the work. And here you are trying to come in and be positive and love and light, and they're not having it, right? So I'm telling you this so that you kind of have some ideas. Now, how do you prepare for something like this? We're going to talk about that in future episodes on the podcast as we move through this. So again, make sure that you are subscribed. Okay, moving on, let's go back and talk about these new moon and full moon before we get to our final thing, which will be all about that Jupiter retrograde and Saturn going direct. All right, so first off, let's talk about this full moon on the 5th in Aries. Now, the full moon is going to take place about 4:03 p.m. Central Time, and you'll see the full moon here. Now, the really beautiful thing about this particular full moon is that it is making only the connection here to our north node and south node. So if you don't know what the north node and south node is, just really quick, our north node in astrology is where we are headed. And as a collective, when we look at it in a transit chart like this, it's collectively where we are going or what we are stepping into, right? What we're working towards. Where the south node is the opposite. It is what is comfortable. It's the things that we've come with. And when we look at this from a personal standpoint, we look at your south node, it really relates to your past experiences, your past lives, and that information that you're bringing in to this experience in this lifetime. So as the collective energy, it's kind of what we're working through, right? It's what we're learning about ourselves and what we're kind of moving through. And so we can see here with our north node making a trine here to that sun. And let's look at it from the moon aspect. It would be a sextile to that north node and a trine over here to the south node. So let me tell you a little bit about how I am seeing this. And I'm going to do a full episode on the full moon so we can really dive into what this energy is in more detail. I can give you some more on it, as well as check out, I have not mentioned it yet, but check out our November lunar shadow work journal, because they'll have all the information that I'm going to talk about here, plus so much more as far as journal prompts, rituals, things that you can do to work through this energy. So this theme, the kind of theme that I'm giving this particular full moon, looking at the aspects and kind of what else is happening in our sky, is I'm getting back to life vibes here. So you want to think, my fellow Gen Xers, Evanescence, we're coming back to life here. That's what this is. So this full moon in Aries, it is like the karmic awareness that you have been waiting for. Or maybe you've been secretly desiring, but not sure if you're ready for. That is your next level of success. Is going to require you to stop being agreeable, especially in leadership, especially in this where you have been agreeable. And it's asking you instead to be that unfiltered authority that is going to really come out and show how you have survived, how you have achieved through everything that life has thrown at you. So that scrappy, figure it all out without a manual kind of energy is exactly what your life and your business needs right now. It doesn't need the yes, sir, yes, ma'am energy. What it needs is you, the version of you that has figured it out, the version of you that had got scrappy, the version of you that didn't need the manual. My friend, we did not have the manual on emotional intelligence growing up. I know for me, that was not something that we had in our world, in our life. Nowadays, there's so much information out there, but we didn't have that. We kind of had to figure this stuff out for ourselves, right? And so because of that, this full moon is like, hey, it's time to step up. It's time to allow yourself to be in the spotlight and to be that version of yourself that is strong. Now, what this doesn't mean, and so hear me correctly, this doesn't mean that we just piss all over people. This doesn't mean that we come out at people, we attack people. This means that we are honest and we are truthful and we are in integrity, and we're just not going to agree, right? No more of that people pleaser energy. This is what you want to look at during this particular full moon on November 5th in Aries. I am excited for this one. Let me just tell you. All right, let's take a look at the new moon, which is happening on the 20th of the month. Where are you? There you are. And this one is coming in at 12:45 p.m. Central Time. and this is in Scorpio. So our sun moved into Scorpio, and here we are in Scorpio moon. So let's tell you a little bit about that one. You can see we have that opposition we talked about with Uranus, that Neptune we talked about earlier, and that Pluto that came in on the 17th. Now, let's talk a little bit about this one. Now, the theme that I'm seeing for this one, and love of music here. So I'm going to, let me share my screen. I just realized I'm not sharing this one. Let me show you where it's at. You can see it. This one is called Into the Deep. The theme that I have for this one is Into the Deep. And for those of you that love 90s music like me, we're talking Bitch by Meredith Brooks. If you know that song, let me know. If you don't, go look it up. It is exactly what this Q moon is all about. We've got that energy with Pluto, with Neptune, and Uranus. So this moon is backed by our outer planets. It is backed by Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. These are our outer planets, right? Our major outer planets. And this is saying, this is time. I've got your back. I've got your back to transform your life, to transform your business by finally operating from your full depth and complexity. All the things of you. This isn't about being put together. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about being professional. This is where we're shifting, whether you're ready or not. Hello, Uranus. So the real question here is, will you intentionally plant seeds in this messy middle? Because this is what we are in. We are in a messy middle. And the thought here is, we're going to wait for disruption to choose us, for conflict to come at us, or are we going to intentionally allow ourselves to be in this messy middle and still move through it? This is so interesting coming at the end of this year, which has been a 9-year, and I have seen so many endings happening throughout this entire year. And here we have this new moon in Scorpio bringing all to the forefront. So, my friend, this new moon, are you willing to intentionally allow yourself to be in the messy middle, to still plant those seeds, to move forward, or are you going to wait for disruption and change to choose you? I don't know about you. All right, moving on to our last thing that I want to talk about is the two planets, are major planets, which are Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter is going retrograde. So as we talked about last month's forecast, we talked about how Jupiter was moving into Cancer, which it had been in Gemini for about a year, or a little bit more than a year. And it moved out of Cancer, out of Gemini and into Cancer. But then it was going to go retrograde. So this is where this is happening. Jupiter goes retrograde about 3 weeks or so after it has entered Cancer. Now, when it goes retrograde, this is where we kind of put a pause on things. This is where we put a pause on particularly things that are growing and expanding. So this is the opportunity to look at, how are you growing? How have you progressed in your goals? Is this time for a new plan on something? So usually at this time of the year, a lot of people are thinking about the new year. And so it's a really great opportunity to look at the past year, think about what's going on here. One of the things that I want to say for this particular Jupiter is, because we're talking about Cancer, there's a lot of that emotional authority, right? That emotional intelligence, that energy that we are here to work on. And Jupiter's here, right? And he's going to expand that even in the retrograde position. So, and then he's going to move back into Gemini. So yes, we do understand that before he moves forward. So this is an opportunity for you to say, are you ready for this expansion that is about to happen, which he'll be out of his retrograde in March of 2026. So we've got a few months here to really work on some of the things. Now, some of the things that I would recommend is your emotional business foundation. So is your business built on the healed version of you, or is it still operating from unhealed wounds? Where is your business? Is it built on, are there still things that you need to heal. This is your opportunity during this retrograde period to do that. Looking at your pricing. Are you charging prices that are actually reflecting your work, or is it coming from a place of scarcity? Money stories, right? Looking at mother wounds or grandmother wounds, ancestral wounds in money, your family, and how women handled money in your family. This is something that we can definitely look at, especially in that Cancer energy. And then as we move forward into Cancer, we might be having opportunities to step into that more. And then client relationships, how are you empowering those relationships? Maybe mothering or, taking on what I see a lot of people do, taking on the responsibility of their client's transformation, which is not your responsibility. The other thing is codependency. So looking at codependency and how you're creating those healthy relationships, whether that's with clients or in your personal life, and then working out of obligation and not out of your alignment. Those are some things that I would say are things for you to look at as we're moving through this Jupiter retrograde. This is a really beautiful time for massive growth for you, for some really beautiful healing, some really beautiful awakening, where you're really setting some good foundations, doing that deeper work on some of the patterns that are sabotaging your growth, right? Jupiter is about growth and expansion. So looking at the things that are sabotaging you in your growth, this is a beautiful time to do it. So right now it's like bringing up that emotional energy. And then once it moves into Gemini, getting really curious and learning things about yourself. That's where I would dive even deeper. All right, let's talk about Saturn, because Saturn is going to go direct on November 27th. And what Saturn has been basically in retrograde since about June of this year. So let's look at Saturn and let's look at him on the 27th. So as you can see, I think he goes later in, so I'm gonna go the 28th, because I think it's like 10 o'clock on the 27th. So we'll really see this more on the 28th. There you go. He is direct. So he is going to be moving now through this Pisces energy. So Saturn just moving into this Pisces energy again and going to be moving through this for a couple of years. We usually see Pisces, Saturn in a sign for about 2 years, about 2 years to 2.5 years, again, depending on its retrograde. So whenever it does go direct, though, opportunity of re-looking, reframing, wiring, right? Redoing energy. And now it's ready to take action forward. So we have been looking at boundaries, right? What are we available for? What is draining us? What are we willing to do? What are we unwilling to do? Is our business model sustainable, right? Or are we white knuckling it kind of idea? Systems that we might have been resisting that we could actually really free us in our business, right? Whether that's automation or creating processes, SOPs, right? And ways that we do things, templates where it's standardized, maybe avoiding things that you've been avoiding in your business or avoiding in your own mastery and authority, since Saturn is about that mastery and authority, or you're doubting yourself as a legitimate business or legitimate in the thing that you do, or claiming yourself to be an expert. A lot of people get caught in it, right? Claiming to be an expert. Now Saturn's like, okay, time to go. Right. That internal review is done. Now it's time to build from what you learned. So what did you learn in these past 6 months from June to now that you are ready to implement, that you are ready to move forward with? So maybe it's, new communication around the hours that you work, right? That's one of the things I'm working on. I'm working on my schedule. I got really clear insight into what I need to do in my day to day and how my days need to be shaped. And so I need to look at what my calendar is going to look like into 2026. I already can tell you this. I have gone into 2026, and from the first Friday in 2026 in January till the end of December, my Fridays are out of office. I've completely took Fridays off of my calendar. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to work? Absolutely. I'm still going to work, but that doesn't mean that nobody can book any sessions. I can if I'm choosing to, but I don't want anything on my calendar on Fridays moving forward, right? That was something that came really clear through this retrograde that now I'm ready to implement. So maybe you need to change your session length. Maybe you had these 90-minute calls that were supposed to be 15-minute check-ins that you're like, yeah, that's not working, right? So maybe there's something that you need to do around your time, boundaries around your time. Maybe your systems for onboarding new clients or offboarding clients, maybe payment structures, maybe packages, right? Maybe these are no longer in alignment with your time and your energy and the things that you put in. This is a great time to say, okay, moving forward, here's what I'm going to be doing. And as a matter of fact, if we look at this, even in boundaries in our personal life, maybe there have been some systems that you are realizing need to be created, whether that's around dinner every night or the groceries, right? I've started using curbside and just having my love go pick it up, right? Taking some time to figure out what I want to make and looking at my schedule, creating that menu, creating my grocery list, putting it all in a cart and then having it picked up for me. It's beautiful, right? Simple thing like that. It's a system that has made things easier for me. A system of when I do my laundry, a system of when I reset my bedroom, like the sheets and all of that kind of stuff, the cleaning of the bathroom, these little things. There's like a system that I put into place where I don't feel like my Saturday or my Sunday or my day off is now filled with all these tasks because that does not feel good, my friend. So all of these things that we might have been kind of allowing this year, now's the time to step up and say, yeah, not doing that anymore. I'm unwilling to do this. And so this is your opportunity to do that, my friend. All right. As we come to an end of this sidereal astrology forecast for November of 2025, my friend, remember a couple of things. First off, we have that November Lunar Shadow Work Journal. Be sure to download that. It's absolutely free. I put it out every single month. That may change in the new year, but for right now, that's what it is. So be sure to download it. It's probably anywhere from 20 to 30 pages of things that you can do in there. Journal prompts, new moon rituals, full moon rituals, other somatic practices that you can do throughout the month as we move through this energy that can support you in moving through this energy. So look out for that. Also look out for a healing for the collective in around the week of Thanksgiving. And what is the last thing? Oh, and if you need extra support, I am available. I do have my calendar for some inner authority calls. On that call, we'll get together. We'll look at maybe some of the things. We'll look at your chart for one and see kind of how some of these retrograde, how this full moon, how this new moon is affecting you, what area of your life, what season you are currently in. And I'll give you some thoughts on how to navigate it. We'll also look at what your inner authority is. So maybe some of those systems, those addictions, those habits that you have that are blocking you from success. I'll give you some thoughts and ideas. We'll go through some practices that you can do. We'll definitely go through our daily somatic awareness practice. If it feels like a good fit, I will invite you in to what support might look like for you in 2026. All right, my friend. And I will say this, their prices are going up. Thank you, Saturn retrograde. My prices will be going up in the new year because you got to charge what you're worth and it's time for an upgrade. So, my friend, if you're looking to lock in the 2025 pricing, then definitely get a hold of me and schedule that inner authority call. You'll find it down below, but you can go to thepeaceteacher.com/IAC call. So, inner authority call and book a time and we'll connect, we'll talk, I'll share all the things with you and then we'll go from there. All right, my friend, have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. And until next time, remember to keep shining your unique light.